Alrighty, friends, we're gonna look at one more example before your exit ticket, but this time you guys see I've included the illustration. So while we practice finding the main idea, I want you guys to think about what clues do we see in the illustration that help us. So first we're gonna think about what is the main idea with finding the topic and thinking about some of those details. So I want you to think about who or what is the text mostly about as I read aloud. The next afternoon, Jackson prowls around the canvas, studying his work, but he doesn't pick up a brush. Instead, he walks the beach past the sandy marshes and tall spartina grass that waves in the breeze. He spends hours sitting on a grassy dune watching the gulls. That was a pretty short page that we read, but we want to think about now for our step one to find our main idea, who or what is the text mostly about? So if I look again at the text, I see that it's about Jackson. I see the word Jackson all over. Jackson or the word he. So I know that still who it's about is our main character, Jackson. And something that he is doing here is sitting on the beach. So when I want to find the topic, I'm looking for my tools on the computer to be able to type. I'm going to say that the topic is Jackson sitting on the beach. I will have to do that in the next slide because it's not popping up. All right, so here we go. Alrighty, sorry friends, before we jump to step two, let's stick to step one. Now I'm able to type, I apologize. We said the main idea of this page is Jackson. What is he doing? He's sitting on the beach. So the topic. The topic is Jackson sitting on the beach. Now, before we decide what the main idea is, let's look at the chart again in step two for the same page. There we go. And let's think about what clues tell us more about Jackson sitting on the beach. So if we think about before, step one, we found the topic. The topic is that Jackson is sitting on the beach. That's who or what this page is mostly about. So to support and learn more about the main idea, we learned that something that can help us is the illustration. Here, when we look for those clues to find supporting details that tell us more about the topic or Jackson sitting on the beach, one clue that might help us find a supporting detail is illustrations. So with thinking and practicing about illustrations, I want you to look at this illustration right here. In the illustration, we see him doing exactly what we said is the topic. Here's Jackson, and he's sitting on the beach. But how does this illustration tell us more about the topic? Why is he sitting on the beach? What is he doing while he's on the beach? It looks like he's looking out at the beach, and he's looking at the gulls. The gulls are that bird that you see there in the air. So if I go back to this first page, I know my annotations are still here, but I see that he's watching the gulls. In the text, it says that he's watching the gulls, which is something that we see again here in this illustration. So why is that important? How does that tell us more about Jackson sitting on the beach? How does that help us figure out what's the main idea? I can put the topic of Jackson sitting on the beach together with the clue of the illustration of him watching with the gulls to say that he's looking at the movement about how the gull flies around in the air. But why is that important? This book is not about the birds or the beach, but it is about movement, right? What do we know is important about movement in this story? That's right. We know that Jackson paints movement, and his ideas come to him. So for example, he's on the beach and he's watching movement from the bird, and that's going to help him later when he paints. And we see that from the illustration. The illustration helps us understand that he's watching the gull while he's on the beach, and this is important because it helps him come up with ideas. The movement of the gull helps him come up with those ideas of what kind of lines to paint later. So for the main idea, I can say, the main idea is Jackson lets his ideas come to him from his surroundings. A detail from the illustration is he paints the movement of the gull while he's on the beach. So again, this helps us think about the topic again. We said that the topic was how he's on the beach. What we learned more about the topic using the supporting detail of the illustration is that he paints the movement that he sees of the gull while he's on the beach. Thinking about the topic and thinking just of this supporting detail, that helps us determine the main idea, which is Jackson lets his ideas come to him from his surroundings. Again, this was something that was hard to figure out because nowhere in the text did it say, this is the main idea and this is why it's important. No, good readers use their inference skills. We infer by looking at the topic and by finding those supporting details to figure out what does the author want me to know about this page? What's the big idea or main idea about the topic? And we learned that for this page, the main idea is Jackson lets his ideas come to him from his surroundings. And that's exactly what we see in the illustration while he's watching that gull fly on the beach. Now, in just a second, you are going to answer some questions about what we practiced today, about our story, about the main idea, and about supporting details. I want you to take your time, go back and look at the text, and use your thinking steps. I will show you how in the next video.